It's like my version of chill is to try and read as much as possible, try to find, accuracy. Because, when you do breaking news on X, the problem is a lot of people tend to spread false information as well. Just kind of like pollutes the data set and it's annoying as shit. They kind of have to like do a lot of research in the background. I do this thing as a hobby, which is like meme hunting essentially, to just try and find the exact origin point of a meme. And that usually helps you kind of like track the origin point for specific types of news. Like, for instance, there was this, I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. The opening of the Olympic Games was very controversial because of how it was displayed, the display of the feast. And then people were basically posting videos that were not related to that, saying that this was like a response to that opening. So I had to like kind of trace that down. There was lots of community notes that came afterwards, kind of shut that down quickly. I kind of err to the extreme. I do more carnivore based. I kind of feel like that's very efficient. You actually don't have to eat that much, but you kind of have to enter ketosis, you have to have kind of a strict diet in a sense, right? Like cut out sugars mostly, and stuff like that. So it requires a different type of discipline. So if you wanted to actually enjoy like the process of eating, that's probably not the best diet to pick. Although I'm a very simple person, so I just pick that, and I think it works out very well for me. I can basically stay awake for practically longer periods of time than mostly anyone else, and only need like 4 hours of sleep, and everything still works out fine. I don't feel any decrease in energy. Ever since I've done this, it's amazing.
And you're not worried at all about the long-term impact of sleep deprivation?
That is concerning. I've also noticed that is not affecting me positively. But for now, I kind of stick to that in a sense because I have a lot of things to do and I need to fit that in. Eventually, I'll kind of like balance that out back to something that's more normal. But right now, there's a lot of stuff that I need to do. I have basically 2 different jobs, and I do the whole X thing on the side as well, which is like a third job almost. And so to do this and to network with people to just basically get growth, because I really do want to grow and I want to, break beyond certain barriers, it requires that kind of effort for me personally. So I have no idea why I do this. I just feel like it's necessary.
You're not ever worried about like sacrifices to, I don't know. I'm assuming you're decently well off financially. I could be wrong on that, but assuming you are, you're not worried that at some point, like trading lifespan or health span for a little bit more financial or whatever other type of success is like a not good trade that doesn't factor in, or you don't care about it as much, or?
I think the impact is not as heavy. It just depends on how long you do it for, how much you do it for. Like if your body is basically telling you, yeah, man, I'm not feeling well. If you feel like your mental faculties are suffering, that's probably the time where you say, okay, you know what, I'll have to change some things. You know what I mean?
I disagree, but
right now,
I could be wrong, but
like it's actually funny. The type of situations that I find myself in, there's mostly it's all improvised. I never really prepare for anything. I can't really prepare for anything. Do you sometimes use that? Do you sometimes use that as well as a tool?
Use what?
The thing that you just mentioned. I'm sorry, I couldn't repeat the
Gish
technical.
Try pretty hard. I mean, like I'm not perfect. There are times where I make mistakes or fuck up, or I might get too emotionally invested in something in the heat of the moment and not give a point that I probably should have in retrospect. But for the most part, I try pretty hard to be truth-seeking, as all the centrists like to say they are.
Truth, you got that. You like slowed down for that one. That was funny.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice. Actually, I think that's really impressive. It's cool. This is the kind of part of the destiny that I'd want actually more people to see, especially like on X. What you just explained, because I think that's really cool. You should like clip this part, or somebody should clip this part and post that, because that's really good. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, it's absolutely insane that what people will say. You will truly see the worst and the best of humanity when you're on the internet and you're big. And then you, of course, get the people who are jealous of success. That's the average. But I also get the people who don't like Elon as well. So whoever dislikes Elon, by default dislikes me as well, because of the obvious parallels, right?
Sure.
Even though there isn't anything, like really that just. I mean, there are certain similarities, and people make the effort to point those similarities out. They don't actually focus on the differences. Like, say, for instance, one of the key differences would be speech, right? Our speech patterns are similar, but I speak faster. That's one thing that, I kind of feel like I'd have to point out. Sure, I have stammering as well, but that's because I'm autistic, right? This is the same thing. He is autistic, I'm autistic. I'm just different in terms of me being able to basically do public speaking, right? Because I kind of tend to speak quick and be able to articulate my point in great detail without kind of, stammering too much. You know what I mean? That's a
Do
key
you?
difference for people have to understand.
Sure. Okay, it's a difference.
So imagine you have like a LinkedIn profile, right? You say who you are, where you work, what your work history is. If that's public, then if somebody like kind of goes to that and says, yeah, that's your public information, then that's kind of an issue, right? But if they associate this with an anonymized identity, because it's like, okay, let me kind of rephrase that. So you have public information, right? You have the LinkedIn account. If I were to have something like that for, say, an X account, and that all my public information is on there, my work history, my name, whatever, whatnot, and I were to then go on a post somewhere and comment some really fucked up stuff, and that company were then to say, we can't really associate with this because not even politically speaking, this is bad, but just bad overall because you just issued a death threat, technically speaking, or you advocated for someone's death, we're going to have to fire you, right? I don't think that, and if somebody points this out, that me as a person with this profile has said this, then that's just consequences of the action, right? If you, for instance, now were to say there's an anonymized account and you were to say somehow find the identity of that anonymized account and link that's doxing, in my opinion. So if your identity is already known on that account, you kind of like show the identity and you're using that account where you show the identity to make a certain opinion public, then if you're associated with that opinion personally, then that's just the way it is, right? But again, if you like reveal the information of an anonymized account, that's doxing, if that makes sense.
Okay, I kind of understand what you're saying. I feel like I have a simpler and more intuitive, and I think a more honest definition. I'm curious, do you have a stance on, because Elon banned an account that was just posting where his airplane was flying, and my understanding is that information is essentially available publicly. All air traffic is. Do you think that was wrong for him to ban that if it's just posting? If somebody was just posting his flights, basically?
I think information such as that shouldn't be public in the first place. That's kind of where I think, look at this person. He's a very high, he's a person who's targeted by various many people, right? So there's a lot of people who'd want harm or just want to stalk him. So imagine if you could basically track that person's every move to a remarkable degree of accuracy. You know exactly where they're going to be, even before they themselves are there. So you could like prepare ahead of time. That's really that's a threat. So I would say information like that shouldn't be public in the first place, like at all. That's kind of my stance on that. And so him banning that because basically it was just doxing his exact location constantly, I think that was the right thing to do, in my opinion.
I don't necessarily